Now, what could be a proper solution for this landscape problem? Well, we could show some switch here at the top, some toggle that actually allows us to switch between chart view and list view, where we have these different lists. And therefore, here in the main Dart file, we of course don't always want to render both the chart and the list, but either of the two. But what we do always want to render on top of both is a switch. For that, thankfully, there is a switch element in Flutter, a switch widget, which is built into Flutter, just like that, called switch. And switch itself has a couple of fields you can configure. Most importantly, you can set its value, true or false, is it enabled or disabled, and a function that is triggered whenever the user changes the switch. Now, of course, some labels would also be good, so let's actually wrap this into a row here. And in that row, we then have a text where we maybe say show chart, and next to that, we then have our switch, like that. And we can set the value to true for now so that it's always turned on, but of course we should also handle clicks on the switch where the user is able to change this. Now we have that chart here. Some centering would also be good, I'd say. So on the row, as you learned it, we can of course add some main axis alignment and ensure that everything is centered along the main axis, which is left to right for a row, therefore it's centered in the middle. Now to make this button clickable, we need to manage the onChanged event here, so when user taps it, because you manually need to store the current value of the switch. So thankfully we already are in a stateful widget. Otherwise, we would have to transform it into one because that switch value is some state which changes and which has to be reflected on the UI. Our widget, our switch here will change after all, leave alone the rest of the page, which we here also will change. And therefore here I'll add a new property in our class here, maybe below our list here. It'll not be a final one, it'll be a Boolean, and we could name it show chart because that is in the end what is controlled with that switch. And initially, let's say it's false. Now we can assign or reassign show chart whenever our switch is pressed. So there on the switch, for on pressed, we can define an anonymous function. Of course, you could have also used a named one. This function will get the value, the new value that will be stored, which is a Boolean. So it automatically, Flutter automatically tells you, should the new value be true or is it false, depending on whether the switch is turned on or turned off. And therefore in here, you just have to call setState to also retrigger the build method and update the UI based on the choice and set showChart equal to val, so the chosen value. And of course, set the switch to the currently chosen value so that on the switch, it's reflected what the user chose. Now with that, that switch is usable and you can, well, switch here. The next step, of course, is that we show either the chart or our list of transactions when we, well, press that switch. So here we can use our ternary expression and check show chart. If show chart is true, then I want to show that chart. Otherwise, so not in addition, but otherwise, I want to show this container here with my list. So now if we save that, we still have that image problem, which we'll also fix, but now we only see the list, and only if I turn this on, we see the chart. So that's now, of course, way better, because while still the styling is off, and we'll have to fix that, we certainly now have a way of showing less on the screen. And that is what we want to do here on landscape mode because we have less height available. An alternative, of course, would be to make the whole screen scrollable, but then again, we'll have the problem with the lists, where if we scroll down too far, we only scroll the list view and we can't get up again. So this is the first step. Let's now also make sure that we adjust the chart height here, and of course, that we also adjust our image size here.